This episode features the incredible tragic story of one of Australia's most beloved television personalities and wildlife conservationists. Steve Irwin lived and breathed nature and became the face of wildlife documentaries worldwide over the course of decades. He enjoyed his agonizing death, which sent shockwaves around the globe and devastated his family and fans. How it happened and why? This and other questions will be answered in the video. Click the like button and subscribe right now. This is the tragic story of Crocodile Hunter Steve Irwin. Welcome to Wild Assault. It was September 14, 2006. The 44-year-old Steve Irwin loaded his truck with supplies and equipment before departing for the Bat Reef in northeastern Australia near Port Douglas. John Stanton was preparing to direct the filming of underwater footage for the upcoming Ocean's Deadliest documentary on the Discovery Channel. John had an unsettling feeling that something bad was about to occur for several days prior to the scheduled shoot. He asked his friends and the producer to cancel the documentary, but the channel had already invested too much money in the project and could not afford any more delays. Still, Johnston had the uneasy feeling that something would go wrong. He drafted a will before reluctantly departing for the reef with Steve Irwin and his cameraman, Justin Lyons. After arriving at the small town near Port Douglas on September 4, they boarded Steve Irwin's 75-foot research vessel, the Croc 1, and sailed to the reef near the Great Barrier Reef on Australia's eastern coast. The area was teeming with marine life, such as sea turtles, dolphins, and whales. In order to film a shark for this episode, however, the crew donned suits and snorkels and dove into the water. Steve and his cameraman, Justin, were unable to find a safe place to search for a stray shark because the water was murkier than usual. They determined that it was best to postpone the shoot for the day because the conditions were not ideal. But prior to their departure, Steve Irwin observed something, the piece of importance. It was not a shark, but rather a gorgeous stingray. These marine creatures could reach a maximum length of 5 meters or 16 feet, including a long, piercing tail over which they had excellent control and agility. It was their primary weapon in the marine environment. However, Steve Irwin was unfazed by the creature. He had been doing this his entire life and was aware that stingrays rarely attack humans unless provoked or stepped on by accident. Steve swam up until the animal was directly beneath him. He believed this was the ideal angle to capture some footage for Bindy the Jungle Girl, his daughter's forthcoming wildlife-themed children's television program. He instructed his cameraman to swim down to him and begin filming the creature. It was a tranquil scene set against the vibrant ocean floor. As they normally swim away or burrow into the sand, stingrays were rarely observed in such close proximity. As Justin Lyons swam closer to Steve Irwin, they were blissfully unaware of what would occur upon encountering humans. Steve Irwin was now only a few feet above the stingray, attempting to determine the optimal shooting angle. As he drew closer, however, the stingray lunged, its long, sharp tail pointing upwards, and sliced through Steve Irwin's chest. A numbing sensation engulfed his body for a few seconds in the chaos of the water before they attempted to swim back to the surface. Steve Irwin commanded Justin to continue filming. Even in such dire circumstance, he desired to gain something from the interaction. However, Justin Lyon was painfully aware of what had just occurred. There was a large 2-inch hole in Steve's chest, and he was now hemorrhaging profusely, turning the water around him red out of fear that the blood would attract a nearby shark. Steve Irwin was seized by Justin, who urged him to swim to safety. When they re-emerged, the severity of his wounds became immediately apparent. Now, Steve Irwin was in excruciating pain and rapidly losing blood. He screamed to Justin that the brutal attack had punctured his lungs. However, the actuality was far worse. The stingray's tail had pierced Steve's heart, and the massive loss of blood meant that he could die within a few minutes. Justin Lyons yelled to the boat's crew that Steve Irwin was severely injured and required immediate assistance. Colleagues hurriedly placed him on an inflatable speedboat and attempted to bring him to shore. They were constantly with Steve. He exhibited an unconquerable spirit. As Justin and the crew applied pressure to the wound to stop the bleeding, they pleaded with him to remain conscious for the sake of his wife and 2 children. Steve Irwin realized he was in his final moments and stated calmly, "I'm going to die," as CPR was administered. After a few minutes, he stopped moving. He closed his eyes and his face turned blue. Steve Irwin, a renowned wildlife conservationist and beloved television host, had passed away. Steve Irwin succumbed to his injuries and died shortly after paramedics were dispatched to the beach in the hope of reviving him. However, it only took them a few seconds to confirm his death. Even if he had been taken to the hospital immediately, there was very little chance that he would have survived such a severe blow to the chest. He was surrounded by the animals and wildlife that he had cherished throughout his entire life when Steve passed away after having his chest pierced by the razor-sharp tail of a stingray. Justin Lyon was the one who captured on camera the entire ordeal that Steve Irwin went through, from the stingray's tail being punctured to the final moments when paramedics attempted to revive him. Following the conclusion of the police investigation, Justin erased the final copy of the tape in order to show respect for Steve's tenacity in the face of adversity and to spare Steve's family the anguish of seeing the place where he was killed. The footage was never viewed, much less made available to the general public. However, the crew and co-workers who cherished Steve will never forget the horrific and agonizing final moments they witnessed Steve go through because they were there. They were grieving and unable to find consolation over the loss of their husband and father when they learned of Steve Irwin's passing while they were on vacation in Tasmania. His wife and children were heartbroken by the news. His wife, Terry, and his children, Bindi and Rob, immediately traveled to the Australia Zoo, which Steve Irwin had managed, and there they were greeted by thousands upon thousands of adoring fans. Steve Irwin has been quoted as saying in the past that he would consider it a successful completion of his life's mission if he could instill in his children a passion for protecting the natural environment. Because of the tragic and untimely death of their father, Bindi and Rob Irwin followed in their father's footsteps by becoming devoted zookeepers and conservationists. They also worked to continue Steve Irwin's legacy in memory of their grandfather. This tragic incident shocked the world, as Steve Irwin was widely known for his love and passion for wildlife. He dedicated his life to educating people about animals and their habitats, and his death was a huge loss to the animal conservation community. His legacy lives on through his family's work at the Australia Zoo and the many documentaries and television shows he created. The story of Steve Irwin's death serves as a stark reminder of the danger that comes with working closely with wild animals and the importance of respecting their power and unpredictability.